presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
We roll right along on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Reds finally ended that 11-game losing streak yesterday, and now they're trying to win a series for the first time in longer than 3 weeks. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Great to have you with us here on Fox Sports Ohio. I'm not sure that you could have a game, Chris, where you saw more odd, strange things than we saw in that wild one yesterday.
Well, you're not kidding about that. We saw 6 hit-by pitches. I mean, 6 batters went down with balls that were hit by. It was the largest comeback of the season when the Reds came back and scored 5 runs in the 7th inning to overcome that 6-1 deficit. And then they scored the winning run, which turned out to be the winning run anyway, on an overturned ground ball double play, neighborhood play, that Rob Coughlin, their video man, saw from down below. But the heroics of Adam Duvall certainly to the forefront. The controversy of hit batters with Alfredo Simon, and it was really a topsy-turvy game, but the Reds ended up on top.
13 runs between the two teams yesterday. It's hard to imagine, although of course we never know, that would be a similar kind of score here today. Brandon Finnegan starting it for the Reds against Jimmy Nelson. Finnegan coming off an outstanding game in L.A.
You're right about that. You know, the last time these two guys teed it up, though, was 13-7, yeah. So you never really know. Finnegan, boy, I don't know if you're going to see him much better than he did when he faced off against Clayton Kershaw in Los Angeles on Monday. It was really a good performance for him. He struck out 2, he walked 4, but he's facing Clayton Kershaw, so he was able to ratchet up his performance just a little bit, knowing that the Reds were not going to get very much against that much ballyhoo left-hander the Dodgers have. And I think he may be finding himself a little bit of groove where he's throwing less, pitching more, and that's a sign of maturity for a young left-hander.
Jimmy Nelson's off to a nice start.
This guy's throwing more and more fastballs each time out. He averages about 94 on the fastball, and he throws both a 4-seamer and a 2-seam fastball. Not much in the way of a change-up at all. Fastball, curve, slider. He's coming off a very good outing against the Atlanta Braves, so this ought to be a nice matchup of a couple of young, hard-throwing pitchers today.
All righty, let's see if the Reds can start a new streak, as in winning streak. Reds and the Brewers. Welcome back to the ballpark. Now, as many of you know, the Reds have a lot of players right now on the disabled list, and we're about to add a broadcaster to that list. You see, following today's game, I'm not going to be around for a little while. George Grand, Jim Day, Jim Kelch will be taking over in this seat. I don't know how long, but we know that Reds telecast will be in great hands. In fact, one might argue that they will never be better than they will over the next number of weeks. You see, starting this week, I'm undergoing what is called a preventative surgical procedure. Those are big, big words. But I certainly have faith in the Lord above and the doctors he'll be standing by that everything's going to work out just fine. I'm so fortunate and so blessed to have a wonderful, loving family. And now all of a sudden they'll get to have me, if they can tolerate it, around a little bit more this summer. I'd also like to stop for a minute and thank the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio, and the Fox Network. They have been incredible during some trying days here recently, and it's something that every employee dreams about. Last but not least, I want to say thanks to so many of you who sent me your well wishes, your thoughts, and your prayers, and just wondering how I'm doing as I've been out here over the last couple of weeks. There is no place in this world that I'd rather be working and living than my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. And a big reason why is because of you. I'm certainly going to miss doing the Reds games, miss Reds baseball. I'm going to miss each and every one of you for a little while. But by the grace of God, we'll be getting together again sometime real soon. Right now, it's time for baseball. The Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers with the series on the line is right around the corner, right here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Was brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. Gorgeous afternoon for baseball here at Miller Park. I'm Jim Day, just beside the Reds dugout. Reds would like to get going early, and they got the bats going in a big 7th inning yesterday. Let's check out our Elk and Elk storyline for today. And these are numbers from yesterday. The heart of the order. Votto 2 for 5. Phillips, couple of hits and a run. Jay Bruce, RBI and a run. And Adam Duvall, the biggest day of all, a home run and 4 runs driven in, including that 3-run bomb in the 7th. Combined 8 for 19. Rest of the team, well, that's what the heart of the order is all about. We'll see if they can get it going early as we go upstairs to the guys that will call the game, Tom Brenneman and Chris Welsh.
All right, Jimbo, thank you very much, my friend, and we're just about set to go. Beautiful, beautiful late spring, early summer afternoon here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Roof wide open, panels wide open, a good crowd on hand. And we certainly wish every one of you a happy, healthy, safe Memorial Day weekend. We take a look at Brian Price's starting lineup. Billy Hamilton in center, Joey Votto again in the 2-hole, Brandon Phillips bats third, Jay Bruce in right. Adam Duvall, his first career start at the big league level at third base. He started a lot of games at third in his minor league career. Tyler Holton in left, De Jesus at short, Barnhart catching, Brandon Finnegan. Jimmy Nelson off to a good start after a pretty solid first full year in the big leagues in 2015.
Well, considering that he will not turn 26 until later on this summer, Jimmy Nelson's probably ahead of schedule from where the Brewers thought he would be. Gifted with a golden arm, the Brewers drafted him in the 2nd round in 2010 out of the University of Alabama. Reds had previously drafted him in 2007. We'll get into that later on, but he's coming off a very good outing his last time out. 6 innings of 1-run baseball against the Atlanta Braves, where he struck out 6. Throws a lot of fastballs. In that game against the Braves, he threw about 80% fastballs, mixes in the 4-seamer and the 2-seamer, and he'll probably go about his business the same way here this afternoon.
All right, digging in Hamilton. He takes high, ball 1, and this one underway. Calling the balls and strikes is Chad Fairchild. Jim Joyce, crew chief down at first. Boy, was he busy yesterday with everything going on. Multiple plays under review. In fact, starting with the very first batter of the game and nearly the final batter of the game. That went right under the glove, and here comes Hamilton easily into second base. How about that? Somebody needs to stick a fork in that baseball out there.
You know, if at least follow it around to see what it eats. I mean, does Billy Hamilton make everybody nervous? I mean, everybody who's not a Reds fan, that is. I mean, Jimmy Nelson thought he may have been able to flag that down, but he decided to let Aaron Hill do it. But Hill, realizing that it was Hamilton running, I mean, he came in so fast on that he just forgot to get his glove all the way down. And it never came up on him, and Hamilton ends up on second base on a little squibber under the second baseman's glove.
Did his rule to double.
I'm not happy about that if I'm Jimmy Nelson or his agent.
That'll be Joey Votto. And you know, who knows? Maybe the last 2 days here, Votto on Friday night. He had 1 hit. That was a home run last night or late yesterday afternoon, early evening. He had 2 hits, scored a run, knocked in a run, and 5 at-bats. Maybe it's the start of something good for Votto. It was his first game this month where he's had more than 1 hit in a game. That's hard to believe.
It is, and the interesting thing really is that both of those hits were to right field, which is something that he hardly ever does anyway, at least up until recently. So maybe he's changing his philosophy just a little bit as the National League is pitching him inside a little bit more.
Well, here we see even more choking up on that bat, and we have chronicled that this entire weekend. When it gets to 2 strikes during at bats, Votto is that far up the end of the bat. So a 4-game hit streak and overall 5 hits in his last 17 trips. Hamilton dancing around out there. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Billy 8 steals in 10 attempts.
Well, he is certainly in the head of Jimmy Nelson. Billy Hamilton is. I mean, even with the shortstop Jonathan VR, who was coming in right behind Billy Hamilton, normally that shortens up the lead. But with Hamilton, all that made him do was inch off the bag a little bit more, and thereby getting more into the head of Nelson. I mean, you love this because he might hang one to Votto.
1-2-1.
Uh-oh.
Now they haven't caught. Throw's going to go to third, and they got it. So he certainly had his attention, but he wins the duel. Does Nelson.
Well, this is actually going to go down as a caught stealing because Billy Hamilton ends up on his way to third base when Nelson goes to second, and just floated off a little bit too much. I mean, it's a fine line for Hamilton, and he's going to have to figure out where that line is, because you certainly don't want to run into an out on the base pass to second base to start the game off.
So now 1-2 again to Votto, and the count is even up. Nelson coming off really his third consecutive excellent start. On Tuesday in Atlanta, no decision in a Brewers 2-1 win. He went 6, allowed only 1 run and 4 hits, struck out 8. He has 7 quality starts out of his 10 overall starts. That one nearly hits Votto. 3-2. Do you think we have any carryover from some of that yesterday?
I really don't. I think if there was any intentional throwing at batters yesterday, it was a personal thing, and not necessarily between these two teams. Although when you have 6 batters beamed in one game, I'm sure the umpires come into this game with their eyes open and looking for anything that might happen.
3-2. We'll do it again. Now these are batters in your lineup and the frequency with which they've been hit this year. And more Reds batters have been hit than any other National League team.
Well, look at that, 3 from the Central Division, the black and blue division.
It is. It is, and has been for a while. Third straight payoff pitch in this at bat. Nelson against Votto. And here it comes. One hopper. That's to the shortstop on the defensive shift. And there are 2 away in the inning. Walking on defense presented by Ford. Presley, Broxton, Flores left, center, and right. Hill goes back over to second. He played third yesterday. And LUCROY has had a big series again behind the plate. Third straight start in this series behind the plate by Jonathan LUCROY. Second day in a row, no Ryan Braun.
You're right. We thought we'd see Brian in the lineup today, or Braun in the lineup today. He was held out yesterday. They didn't disclose exactly what was going on with Braun. He has been problemed with a bad back and a bad wrist. We did see him as a pinch hitter, but I think they expected him to play today, and he surprisingly is not in the lineup. So something is bugging Braun.
Well, they were very late getting their lineup out. For some of you that may not know, I mean, generally a good 3 hours before the first pitch on most games, you'll know who's in the starting lineup for both teams. The Brewers went a good hour and a half beyond that mark before we learned their lineup today. So Braun perhaps had something to do with that.
Jimmy Nelson's got one of those kind of quirky stats that goes along with him, where he is better this year anyway against left-handed hitters, batting average wise, than he is against right-handers. Lefties are hitting about 25 points lower than right-handers, which doesn't make sense because other than his fastball, his best pitches are his slider and his curve. and they break right into a left-hander instead of breaking away from him. He has allowed more home runs to left-handers. You know, the one pitch he doesn't have, and I'm really still stunned that they've not been able to work this into his repertoire, is a changeup. I mean, he's basically fastball, slider, curveball. And on any given day, if the slider or curveball isn't working, he's slider or fastball and one other pitch.
Nelson, a second-round draft pick back in 2010. Last year, 111. Lost 13 with an ERA just barely over 4 in 30 starts. It was his first full year in the major leagues. So that is a pretty good rookie season from Jimmy Nelson. And another foul ball out of play, 1-2 on Brandon. Phillips checks in with 6 home runs and 22 runs batted in. He's a .254 batter. Reds will be turning around and heading west again after the game today. They'll play an afternoon game on Memorial Day. Tomorrow in Denver, Colorado, the opener of a 4-game series. Milwaukee will stay right here and welcome St. Louis. Breaking ball away. 2-2. Jay Bruce hoping for a chance here in the Cincinnati first inning, an inning which began with a roller by the mound that trickled into center field for a double. But Billy Hamilton was picked off. Votto bounces out, and now the 2-2 on Brandon. Nelson just can't put him away. In his career against the Reds, Nelson in 8 games, 6 starts. 34 innings, 25 earned runs allowed. The Reds knocked him around pretty good in a game the Brewers would win in extra innings earlier this year at GABP. This will be the 10th pitch in this at bat coming up. What an at bat by Brandon Phillips. 10-pitch at bat, capped off with a base hit into center field.
Now 10 pitches, but the count still was only 2 balls and 2 strikes. So all that time, it was one after another strikes thrown by Nelson, and finally a fastball 95 miles an hour negotiated into center field by Brandon.
So Bruce will get that chance here in the first. And it's down low, ball 1. Jay saved his best for the end yesterday. Hitless in his first 3 trips with 2 strikeouts, but had an RBI single with 2 outs and had 5-run 7th just in front of the home run by DUVALL, and had a single to keep the inning alive in the 9th when the Reds broke the tie to win it. 1-1 to Jay Bruce. in the air and over on the third base side, out of play. You know, even though the Reds offensively have been really up and down and very inconsistent, Bruce is put together a pretty good year so far.
You know what he's been able to do is kind of combine his commitment to hit the ball the other way along with trying to stay with the power stroke. Very difficult thing to balance out. Think he's calmer now that he's got a baby in the family?
His life's a lot better, I can tell you.
Yep, you know that.
There's no doubt. You got a chance to hang out with your oldest today, Kerry, who is a recent graduate school graduate at Wisconsin. And while she won't cheer, some of her fellow Badgers will, as Phillips has thrown out to end the inning. A pair of runners cut down on the bases in the Reds' first. Brewers 22 wins, 27 losses. VR at short, Perez at third, LUCROY behind the plate. Chris Carter at first, Aaron Hill at second, Ramon Flores in right. A ladder third of Keon Broxton, Alex Presley, and Jimmy Nelson. Against a left-hander who threw his first career complete game, his last start in Los Angeles, 8 innings albeit.
What a big year really for Brandon Finnegan. He turned 23 years old on April the 14th. And he has availed himself pretty well in a rotation that has needed some consistency. No better outing that he had against Clayton Kershaw's last time out. And for Finnegan, it's all a matter of, you see where that pitch was? Just throwing it like that, but bringing it down. I mean, getting it down around the knees and letting the natural action of that fastball take over.
When he threw that complete game against the Dodgers on Monday night, it was the first complete game by a Reds left-handed pitcher since Lance Davis in 2001 on July the 16th at Old Synergy Field beat the Detroit Tigers.
Wow. First of all, you bring up a name out of the archives. Haven't thought about Lance Davis in a while, and that has been that long for a left-hander.
Hard to believe. Of course, they got spoiled by that left-hander named Tom Browning for a while.
They did.
But it was a streak where 25 Reds left-handers made 339 regular season starts without finishing a game. Three and two on VR. Lined into center field, a base hit. We look at the Reds on defense, presented by Ford. They'll go with DUVALL, his second career appearance at the big league level at third base, his first ever big league start at third, although, Chris, it's not foreign turf. He started more games at that position than any other during his minor league career.
You're right, and like so many players that make the major leagues, he came up as an amateur player playing shortstop, so he's a good athlete. He's made some very good plays in left field defensively. And
sure has.
yeah, they're giving Suarez a time off and maybe a little motivation to Eugenio Suarez. I know there's somebody else on the roster that can play third base. No better motivation than fear.
No doubt about that. For Suarez, going through the worst stretch of his professional career. He's hitless in his last 27 at-bats. So I'm sure a much-needed physical day, but more importantly, a much-needed physical and mental off day for Suarez. Trying to move the runner along with a bunt is Perez. 1 ball and 1 strike. In the air, could be playable. Let's see. Phillips, a long way to get it, crashes into the wall. He hung onto the ball, I believe, and the runner tagged up. And now the runner's going to third. Can you believe that?
Brandon certainly has hurt his leg because he couldn't put anything on that throw. Throwing almost all arm off balance. He crashed into the wall down there as he was catching that fly pop-up. Here's the play again. His left knee and ankle go underneath the padding there and go right against that hard wall. There's a pad there, but it's not really much of a pad when you consider it's cement behind that. And Jonathan Villar tagged up and went to second. And now he's halfway between second and third, and Brandon can only flip the ball in there, and Villar ends up on third base.
This series gets stranger by the minute. First and foremost, our concern, of course, for Brandon Phillips, that he's okay. I mean, you thought you saw some things yesterday. And here we are in the first inning today. We've had a ball dribble through the infield for a double, and we've had a runner on a foul ball tag up first to third. That doesn't look good.
You know, if there's anybody on this ball club who will play nicked up and hurt, it'll be Brandon Phillips.
No question.
But that does not look good at all. The way they had to help him to his feet. Oh, he doesn't want to put weight on that left leg. I don't know whether it's his ankle or his knees trying to work it out.
You know, you bring up a great point. It's not saying there aren't other tough guys on this Reds team, but we have seen Brandon Phillips over the last number of years play through injuries that most guys are going to need some time off.
You're right, and I mean, including ones that he knew that he had them. For instance, a broken tip of his finger, which takes a long time to heal. You know, wrapped it up and played, and really didn't tell anybody about it for a long time because he's not the kind of guy that wants to go out and feel, you know, a lot of sympathy. I think he's trying to test it to the point where he maybe be able to talk his way to stay into this ball game.
It doesn't look very good. You said it right from the start, and as he's trying to walk around a little bit, you can tell he's in a great deal of pain. He'll stop again, put the hands on the knees.
I mean, you can walk, but can you run? Can you move laterally? Can you stop and throw?
I think he's going to try and stay in this game. Not that that would surprise anybody. He is. You can never question the toughness or the commitment or the will to play of Brandon Phillips.
Take a look at it again.
You know, he rammed that foot into the cement bottom part. You know, every ballpark you have the padding, but at the very, very bottom, it doesn't extend all the way down to the ground. That's a cement wall. And it looked like he rammed the left foot into that. Now, did that mean he rolled his ankle? Felt something in his knee? We don't know. But we do know he's in the game. And we know VR is at third base with one out for LUCROY, who's had a big series. Big series. 3 RBIs, 2 hits and a home run in the opener. 2 hits, another home run, 3 more batted in yesterday. 6 runs batted in 2 games for LUCROY. One ball, one strike on the Milwaukee catcher. And it's in the air, short right, out of play. IGS bringing the energy, and boy does he bring energy against the Redlegs so far this year. He's not alone. But LUCROY in 6 games, 4 bombs and 9 knocked in. Look what he's done in 40 other games this year against the rest of baseball. Runner at third, 1 out. Right center field, this will bring in VR. And the Brewers take a 1-0 lead on the sac fly by LUCROY.
Well, you can credit that run. Yes, LUCROY gets a run batted in, but Jonathan VR, what heads-up base running. When he saw that Brandon Phillips crashed into that wall, went down, was in severe pain, that's when he went from first to second, and then he was still sizing up Phillips when he decided to swipe third. It's almost like a tag up and a stolen base, but you can't give him that.
Want to know the count on Chris Carter. Bases empty, 2 out. You know, we brought up on Friday night that VR has taken, I guess, some level of criticism here in Milwaukee from some corners about his, you know, reckless base running. Well, we talked to Craig Counsell on Friday, and he said, look, he said, this guy is so young. He's very talented. He said he reminds me a lot of Carlos Gomez and the fire and the passion he plays with, and you're going to make some mistakes. Bruce will run that one down and the inning is over. But VR able to score 1-0 Milwaukee.
Everything you have come to expect and more. It includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. On to the top of the second inning. Jay Bruce will lead off for the Reds.
So Bruce dumps it foul out of play off to the third base side. You know, again, we were talking about how weird this series is and how it's been. Look at the first inning here today. The Reds send up the minimum number of hitters. 3. 2 of the 3 had base hits. And then you get to the bottom of the first inning, and a base runner tags up going first to third, and this game is tied up. Jay Bruce, his 35th career home run against the Milwaukee Brewers, and on the season #9 for Jay Bruce, a 1-1 game.
Yeah, Jay Bruce probably smiled when he realized came into the ballpark that it'll be Jimmy Nelson on the mound today, because he's spaced him a lot. He's done very well against him. And up at the plate looking for fastball, looks like that's what he got, and just simply unjammed him. Trying to come in on Bruce, and boy, did he get his hands working on this one.
$11 home runs, 26 knocked in for Adam Duvall, and he carries with him a .265 batting average, a team best 13 doubles. And he is our steel power tool performer. Duvall has hit 9 of his 11 home runs here in the month of May, and that is most among all National League players. Probably noticed 3 of the top 4 right here in this game today.
Well, you know, interesting, because early in the season Duvall was splitting time with some Scott Schebler in left field, but now not only is he playing every day, but they're switching him around in positions to keep him in the lineup. That's how dramatically things have changed for Adam since the beginning of the season.
And that's that old adage, Chris, and you talk about it in every walk of life. Yep. It doesn't matter if you're a baseball player, it doesn't matter what you're doing. When you get your chance, you know, when you get the chance. And he's getting the chance, and he's making the most of it. Look at that turnaround from April to May. 2-2. And hit by Nelson. 4 of the first 5 batters for the Reds in this game have reached base. 3 hits and now a hit batter.
Well, I don't think there's any way that this is intentional. It's just a fastball that got away from Jimmy Nelson and rolled right inside. Of course, that doesn't make it hurt any less if you're Adam Duvall, though he has a little bit of a pad there. Maybe it got mostly pad.
Now Tyler Holt starting for the 2nd consecutive day, and why shouldn't he be? He had 2 hits, a single, a double, a run batted in, and 4 at bats yesterday. Pushes it to the first base side, and he's going to get an infield hit. There certainly is a life and an energy about Tyler Holt that he brings with him to the ballpark every day. You and I were talking about that 5 minutes before game time.
Well, one of the reasons that Holt is in the game is because Adam Duvall was moved from left to third base, so that would provide Holt a chance to play today. Brian Price recognizes the fact that he does bring that energy. I mean, sometimes with a team that is, you know, not winning a lot of games like the Reds have been, they just broke that 11-game losing streak yesterday, you look lethargic. So you want to infuse the team with some energy, and Holt, I mean, he shows up like the Energizer Bunny. So a little innocent little bunt there turns into an infield hit. Now you've got First and second, nobody out.
Now here's an interesting decision for a manager, Chris, and there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. This is a number 7 hole hitter. And I think most every at bat, if Ivan De Jesus comes up with first and second and nobody out, he's going to be asked to bunt. But you have the number 8 hitter waiting on deck. And we know the pitcher after him.
Exactly.
So do you ask him to bunt? Not on the first pitch.
The question is, how many runs are you playing for in this inning? Do you think that the inning is coming apart for Jimmy Nelson to the point where maybe you can get 2 or 3 runs? Or if you want to play for 1 run, you bunt him to third base and you hope that maybe a fly ball out of the number 8 hitter, Barnhart, will get you that 1 run that you want. Early in the game, I think you play for a big inning.
1-0 to Ivan De Jesus Jr. And a base hit into right field. They are going to hold the runner at third, and the Reds have them loaded with nobody out here in the second inning. Seven Reds have come to the plate in this game. 5 of the 7 have base hits. 6 of the 7 have reached base safely. Yet they only have 1 run because 2 runners were thrown out on the base pass in the opening inning.
Now, if you only want to apply the numbers to this situation, you say, all right, well, what is expected when you have bases loaded and nobody out? The overall run expectancy on that is 2.28. Now, it would probably be much different now that you're down at the bottom of the order and you've got 8, the number 8 hitter, and then the pitcher coming up. But still, the Reds in this inning ought to expect to get a couple of runs out of this opportunity.
Tucker Barnhart trying to meet that challenge. 236 batter, a home run, 8 knocked in. First pitch swinging at a fastball, nothing in 1. This is a big batter in this game, even though it's a second inning. Obviously, they have nowhere to put him. Finnegan's a good hitter, but he's a pitcher. He's next. Oh, 2.
The Brewers are just looking for outs right now. Now, Jimmy Nelson may be thinking, I want to get outs, but I want to leave everybody where they are. But I'm sure that Craig Counsell's thinking, hey, we're going to play the infield back. We'll go for a double play ball. We'll give them the run here. We just don't want a big inning on our hands.
There should be a double play ball. That's exactly what you just said. So they'll give up the run. The Reds score to take a 2-1 lead. But you have the pitcher coming up, and it's almost the best you could ask for if you're Jimmy Nelson. Almost. So a 2-1 Reds lead, and here is Finnegan, and he is no easy out. We know that. 5 hits and 20 at bats, including a double and 2 batted in. One ball, one strike. Two and one on Finnegan. Runner at third, 2 out. To the shortstop, VR, and the inning is over. Reds get a run. After the bases were loaded with none out, the inning began with a long one by Bruce. 2-1 Cincinnati.
pitching in the major leagues the way that Brandon Finnegan is, it's not only about performance, it's about learning. And learning how to control his delivery is a big thing for him right now, and it's got him on the way. Let's hear what he has to say.
Me and Riggins, you know, in our last couple of pins, we've really sat down and talked about a lot about, you know, how I get too quick sometimes when I start getting anxious. So we've kind of put in situations in my pen where all I do is worry about is falling through. Don't worry about where the ball goes or anything like that. I just make sure I stay low instead of, you know, kind of drifting away, and that's helped me a lot. You know, I've done that in my last 2 starts. I feel like I've commanded the ball a lot better in my last 2 starts.
Every pitcher has something in his delivery that he thinks about to kind of keep it all together. It's like a golfer. You can't go out there and think of 59 different things and try to get your swing groove. You think about the one thing that makes it flow. And for Brandon Finnegan and Mark Riggins, the pitching coach, they've determined that that thing should be staying low on the follow-through. So if he can do that, the ball will find a spot.
2-1 ball game. Reds in front, and here's Aaron Hill. Hill 6 home runs on the year. 5 of those have come against the Reds in the 6 games between these 2 teams. So really, Hill and LUCROY have done tremendous damage in the first 6 meetings between these 2 teams, and the teams have split the first 6 games of this season series. 3-0. Finnegan has walked 27 batters in 56 innings so far this year. That clearly is a number he'd like to bring down. And you believe with more experience it will. 3-1.
Well, he's had a couple of starts out of the last 5 that he hasn't walked anybody in the ball game. So he knows it's there, and it's just easy to get out of whack. Problem is you're doing it at the best level of baseball in the world.
5-pitch walk to Hill, first of the game for Brandon. And that's the way things begin here in the Milwaukee 2nd inning with Ramon Flores coming up. Good breaking ball, strike 1 to Flores. 221 batter with a home run and 9 batted in. Flores a pinch hit single in the game last night. He had 2 hits, scored a run in 5 at bats here on Friday night. Hill has never been a guy that's a big stolen base guy, but even at his age now, he is 3 out of 4 in that category so far this season. So if you don't pay attention to him, he'll go get the next base in front of him. Breaking ball, and it looked like he went around. He did, strike 3. First strikeout of the afternoon for Finnegan.
Well, he stayed down low on this one, Finnegan did, and finished it. That's really the key to a good curveball or even a slider is that it starts behind your throwing arm ear. In Finnegan's case, his left ear, and finishes on the outside of his right knee. You get down and do that, and you'll end up finishing that pitch and keep it down. The ones you end up when you're standing up, those are the hangers.
Now the center fielder, Keon Broxton. He has 3 hits in 31 at-bats. He got his first hit of the year in his 25th at-bat the day before the Reds came in. He had 2 hits and a walk, a run scored Friday night, and was hitless in 3 trips yesterday. Double play ball if they can turn it quickly. Phillips gets rid of it in time, and the inning is over. A leadoff walk, no damage done. We play 2. Reds lead by 1.
Sports Supports is proud to team up with merging vets and players dedicated to ensuring our nation's warriors can be as productive off the field as they were on it. This program joins combat veterans with former athletes to form a common bond over dedication and teamwork. Visit foxsportsupports.com to learn more. And we hope everyone's having a good Memorial Day weekend filled with family and perhaps some picnics, etc. But hope at some point they just take a moment, pause, and reflect about what tomorrow is all about.
Boy, Jim, you bring up a great point, and certainly, you know, echoing that, if everybody could just take a moment when you're doing something that, you know, perhaps in other countries now or at other times through the history of mankind, maybe you weren't allowed to do, or you weren't able to do, or if you did, you might be thrown in jail. Remember those who fought for every one of the freedoms we have in this incredible country, the United States of America, and those who not only served, but of course on this weekend, that died in fighting and serving for our country.
Well said.
One pitch. Votto bounced out to the shortstop. His first time up. And, you know, now that I see this switch, I'm wondering if I was incorrect the last time. Yeah, because they just moved the third baseman to the position that threw out Votto the first time.
That guy.
Yeah. They just flip-flopped him after they reached 2 strikes. And he's gone swinging on a ball away from him. 2 down. First strikeout for Nelson. Now Brandon Phillips, who singled, was thrown out trying to steal second base in the first inning, then hurt himself in the bottom of the first, but stayed in the game, and he's still in there right now in the third. Cardinals trying to sweep the weekend series in Washington, D.C. They have really taken it to the Nationals. Did that hit Phillips or did it hit the bat?
It sounded like the bat. Boy, Brandon getting beat up today. That was just all bat right there.
Trying to remember exactly what the sequence. Jim Day, help me with this if you do remember, or Chris. Remember earlier this year when he had basically 2 injuries? It was against the Mets in the same at bat.
Yeah.
Hit him right on the same spot, fouling the ball off his leg.
And then he got hit with a pitch, I think. Didn't he foul it off and then get hit with the pitch?
I think he fouled 2 off,
Yes.
and they both hit the same spot.
On the shin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then later in the game, he came back and delivered a big base hit.
Was that the Noah Syndergaard game when Syndergaard was throwing about 100 miles an hour?
That was it.
Yeah. He was in the middle of things yesterday.
Sure
Syndergaard was.
Threw behind Chase Utley. We saw that in retaliation for Utley's slide during the League Championship Series last year. Perfect inning for Nelson. Reds still in front 2-1.
We'll never forget this summer with the official Reds baseball and softball camps presented by United Healthcare. Campers will receive their own uniform, special instruction from a Reds coach, guest appearances by a current Red star, and more. Sign up today at reds.com/camps. Gentlemen, you were talking about that Brandon Phillips game against the Mets. It was back on April 25th, and indeed he fouled 2 off of his shin, but then later got hit by a pitch on a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. Then had to leave the game, was pinch ran for right there, and then missed the next 2 games. So another one of getting beat up today.
But he's still in there. And his team has a 2-1 lead as Milwaukee bats in the home half of the third. Alex Presley to lead things off, the number 8 hitter in the Brewer lineup, and he's down a strike. Nelson to follow, then back to the yard. Reds got 2 runs in the second after Milwaukee scored on a single. A foul ball where Villar had the single advanced first to third when Phillips was injured. LUCROY knocked him in. The first batter the next inning, Jay Bruce homer to tie it. And the Reds would load the bases. A ground ball double play would bring in a second run, the go-ahead run. Two and one on Alex Presley. This guy's been a world beater against the Reds. 5 home runs in 33 games, and it's a guy who really has not been a regular player. That ball stung into left center, but there to get it is Tyler Holt. Presley must be wondering what he has to do to get a hit. He had 2 balls exactly like that one yesterday. One line to left, another one line to short. Nelson, first pitch swinging towards Jay Bruce. 2 away. Coming up later on, we'll have our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. Here's VR. He singled to center field and scored the only Milwaukee run on the fly ball by LUCROY in the first, but of course he did all the hard work. Advancing first to third, tagging up on that play made by Phillips in foul ground when Brandon was hurt. And there's a walk with two away in the inning.
That's a kind of walk, really, that you categorize under maybe a little loss of concentration. You know, it's so natural for a pitcher. You get the first 2 out, and you're thinking, all right, you know, all I got to do is get one more out. And you let your edge down just a little bit. And not only do you walk a guy, but you can walk a guy that's got some speed, who is, depending on who you talk to here in Milwaukee, either aggressive or reckless on the base paths.
VR leads the National League in stolen bases. He has 17 on the year. In fact, that's most in Major League Baseball. Jose Altuve leads the American League with 15. Starling Marte, 1 behind VR. Perez fouled out to Phillips his first time up. And a 3rd straight throw trying to keep VR close.
Only 14 off the record.
You were knocking on that door.
That was me who just said it.
That's what I mean. I mean, you're the one that was knocking on that door.
And my philosophy was throw over one more time than you think is necessary.
Much to the chagrin of your former manager, the late, great Dick Williams.
I actually,
you know, for those who don't know, I mean, it's not some inside joke. Chris did that in a game and heard about it from his manager.
Yeah. And heard about it really from the ballpark too. The game I did it, I actually was pitching for the Reds where Pete Rose was the manager, and my hometown team. And a lot of tickets I left myself. They were all booing me. But I did get an honorary contract from the concessionaires that day.
You should have.
I gave them a lot more time to sell their wares.
You should have had one of those deals where the rare games you're off when the Reds are at home, if you happen to come to a game with like family or friends, whatever, you know, everything's on the house.
Or I could just, you know, peddle some beer or soda or popcorn as I'm walking around the stands. I'm thinking about maybe doing that on a couple of my dark days. Dark days meaning days that there are games, but I'm not working on TV.
Well, I might be picking up a uniform right alongside of it. This ball is launched into left center field. On his way is Villar. And here comes the throw to the plate. It hits the back of the mound. And after the 2-out walk, Villar scores all the way from first on a double by Perez.
Well, it seems like a harmless 2-out walk ends up being a run when you follow it up with a 2-out double. Boy, this ball off the bat of Perez just sounded so good. I think Finnegan probably is relieved that it stayed in the ballpark. I mean, he's a young player, Perez is. I think he's only about 25 years old. The Brewers picked him up off the waiver wire back last November from the Detroit Tigers. So they hit big on that particular claim.
And we mentioned the other day that Craig Counsell kind of views him down the road as a guy that they could ask to play multiple positions and get pretty regular playing time moving forward. There he goes. And no chance for Barnhart, even if that pitch is not in the dirt.
Well, what they were going to give it to him because Adam Duvall didn't move at all at third base. What you don't want to have happen is LUCROY make contact, hit a little dribbler to third, and then find your third baseman standing on the bag trying to throw a guy out that you probably wouldn't have gotten anyway. So they wanted to keep the defense intact. That's solid. You make that decision ahead of time. And I think Craig Counsell probably knew that and gave him the green light.
1-0 the count on LUCROY. Sinking liner. Hamilton cannot get it. Boy, what a series for LUCROY. In 2 games and 2 at-bats, he has 7. Now make it 8 runs batted in.
Well, you know it's going well when you get it on the end of the bat. You don't really hit it all that well, but it falls in front of the center fielder, who's playing rather deep because the ball carries here well, and he sent the center fielder and the right fielder back into the gap on the last ball that he hit. All of a sudden, man, you get 2 outs, nobody on. You walk a batter. You give up a double. He steals third. Then you give up a base hit, and the pitching coach comes out to visit you. And you're thinking, you know, 5 minutes ago, this is going to be an 8-pitch inning.
LUCROY had 17 runs batted in the entire season before this series began. 17. Now he has 25. Oh, and 1 on Chris Carter. Fastball under the knees. A ball and a strike. First 2 retired in the inning. And as Chris mentioned, that walk to VR, he scores on a double by Perez, who then steals third. Scores on the single by LUCROY. Two-one to Chris Carter. Carter, originally a fifth-round pick by the White Sox in '05, was involved in the Carlos Quentin deal, going from the White Sox to Arizona in '07, and then later that year was traded again from Arizona to Oakland in a huge trade that involved, among others, Carlos Gonzalez, who we'll see tomorrow, and Dan Herron. Then went from Oakland to Houston in the Jed Lowry trade before signing as a free agent this offseason with Milwaukee. One hopper to third. First try for DUVALL, and the inning is over. A two-out rally, scoring twice to the Brewers. They lead by a run.
Over the Reds 3-2, top of the fourth inning. Jay Bruce coming up for the second time, but his first time was a home run. And we talk a lot about hot zone, right? And Jay Bruce normally likes the ball on the outer part of the plate. He got one inside against Jimmy Nelson this one. And he shows you that maybe his hot zone, when he's on top of things, can shift a little bit. And that's that little reddish black dot in the top left of that strike zone. That's the strike zone as seen from the pitching mound. So I think the reason Bruce was able to get to that inside pitch is that he's looking fastball, and you know, you get it going a little bit earlier. Now, so what does Jimmy Nelson do this time? He drops the breaking ball on him and a curveball. Nelson throws everything hard. I mean, his fastball is 94, 95. His slider is 87 miles an hour. His curveball is 82.
Two and two to count on Jay Bruce.
Tom, there are a lot of people that saw you talk about your upcoming procedure.
Yeah.
In the open of our ball game today, including Lee Risley, who is a British Reds fan watching on MLB TV, and he wishes you the best.
Well, I'll tell him right now. Lee, thank you very much. That's very, very kind. Hey, you know, by the way, when you're sitting there trying to do one of those things, you have a lot of things on your mind, and you prepare some statements to make sure you get it all out there. I want to make sure that everybody understands. This is nothing like cancer or anything like life-threatening. And I certainly did not make that clear enough before the game. So I apologize for that, and thanks for bringing it up. In fact, you brought it up to me, so thank you, partner.
Well, we wish you the best.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be hanging right in there with you.
Amen to that. Be dialed into you and Georgie tomorrow afternoon. George Graham back in the booth, and Jay Bruce back to the dugout. Nelson looks a little crisper here the last couple of innings with his stuff.
Sometimes it takes a while to get the feel of that breaking ball, and after Bruce took him deep on that fastball up and in last time out, that is some people call it a knuckle curve. Some people will call it, just a bent finger curve, where you kind of bring your knuckle up a little bit. But that's his curveball at 82, down and in, perfect spot. Spike curveball is the other term for it.
Line into center field, a base hit by Adam Duvall. He was hit by a pitch his first time up, and says, Jimmy Nelson, take that. 1 on, 1 out, Reds down a run here in the 4th.
Maybe not quite as dramatic as what Chase Utley did to the Mets after the ball was thrown behind him by Noah Syndergaard. He proceeded to hit a home run in that at bat, and then in his next at bat hit a grand slam. Exclamation point.
People forget because he's been injured for a number of years. This guy was one great baseball player for a long time.
He was.
Game. Utley will certainly go down when you look at his numbers as among the very best offensive second baseman in the history of the game. There's one, and there's two to end the inning. Milwaukee in front, 3-2 after 3.5.
Milwaukee. I'm Jim Day. A lot of people wondering, why did Brian Price argue so long yesterday in that weird game here in Milwaukee? Now, he talked before the game today, and he said he had not connected the dots that the benches weren't worn. previously in this season, he was thrown out immediately when Ross Ollendorf was thrown out of the game for hitting a batter. So he thought this was the same situation. So the whole time he was arguing, he thought he had already been tossed out of the game and he was going to get his money's worth. Crew chief Jim Joyce said, Brian, you can stay out here as long as you want, but you got to warm up a pitcher. And then eventually told him, hey, you're not thrown out of this game. So he just went on and on and on because he thought he had already been tossed from the game.
It's funny stuff.
You know, Jim Joyce has to have a little sense of humor there.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Aaron Hill to begin things in the Milwaukee fourth inning against Brandon Finnegan. Brewers scored twice off Finnegan with 2 outs and nobody on in the third to take this 1-run lead. That ball's in the air to right center field, hit a long way, but you got to really get it out of here going that way as a right-handed batter. It's the deepest part of the ballpark, or the second deepest from straightaway center. But there's a cutout out there that's pretty good poke.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure the ball carries as well with the roof open as it does with the roof closed. You know, the wind is blowing in, it looks like today, in from left field, and although it's not really windy in here, obviously, with half the roof, even when it's open, it seems like it's half closed. I just think it carries a little better when that baby's closed, huh? Although
it's funny that in most ballparks, and in ballparks, it's not like there's a ton of them, but there's a handful where you have a retractable dome. And in those ballparks, the ball is believed to carry better when the roof is open. But having said all that, you know, places like Arizona and Houston, the temperatures are very, very warm, and the ball tends to carry better in warmer weather.
Yeah.
Hamilton will handle this one to his glove side for the second out.
All right. Same way the inning started last inning for Brandon Finnegan. Got the first 2 batters on harmless fly balls. Don't let the same thing happen to you. I mean, learn from what happened last inning when the Brewers pushed 2 across to take the lead after Brandon had retired the first 2 hitters. So now you really concentrate on Broxton right here. I mean, if he's getting on base, he's earning it with a base hit.
Broxton bounced into an inning-ending double play in the second. It started with a ground ball to De Jesus at short. Strike 1 here.
Hey, the first thing, I mean, Broxton's been struggling, obviously. His batting average is still under 100. But, you know, just from watching him play in this series, the first thing that he could do is simply shrink the strike zone and only swing at strikes.
We mentioned he came up with the Pirates last year. He only had, what, 2 at-bats?
2 at-bats.
Went 0 for 2 and then 0 for his first 24 this year with the Brewers. He was asked to put down a sacrifice bunt in Atlanta on Thursday with runners at first and second. He popped the bunt into the air. It turned into his first major league hit. Two and 2.
Broxton was the player that we talked about that came from Lakeland High School, who played on a state championship football team. I think they won it 3 years in a row. And had a very fine baseball team. The Pouncey brothers were his teammates.
I asked you the question. You said there were 3 players that went on to play in the NFL from that high school team he was on. I asked you who they were. All 3 played for Urban Meyer when he was the head coach of the Florida Gators, winning a pair of national championships there, and all of those guys were involved in that. The Pouncey brothers, twins, offensive linemen, and Chris Rainey, who might be running this summer in the Olympic Games.
On Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on U.S. News Best Children's Hospital. And a change in the Reds' rotation going into Colorado was supposed to be Daniel Wright making his second big league start, but with the Reds' bullpen taxed, he is in the bullpen today if they need him. Dan Straley will start tomorrow, and as we told you, look for John Moscott to get a start some point in Colorado. He'll do that on Tuesday. John Lamb, Alfredo Simon will follow if Daniel Wright does not pitch out of the bullpen today. Brian Price did say there's a chance that he would go back in that rotation here in this next week. So we'll follow that one.
There's a lot going on. It looks like Michael Lorenzen is on the comeback trail after dealing initially with an elbow strain. And then really the thing that sidelined him for an extended period of time was a bout with mononucleosis. Saw where Raisel Iglesias threw again in a bullpen session yesterday. So hopefully, we've been talking about this for a long time with a number of different players. But you'd like to think that maybe with DeSclafani moving forward, would love to hear some more good news or some good news about Homer Bailey. It'll be a little longer than anticipated. And maybe, Chris, you get to, what, 3rd, 4th week of June, if not early July, and all the pieces that you thought you might have are close to being on deck.
Well, which means in the meantime, it's going to be like a year of tribute to David Bowie as far as his pitching staff changes.
The late, great David Bowie.
Yeah. But I mean, really, the guys that are up here right now getting an opportunity to pitch, like Daniel Wright being one of them, right? You got to take this advantage, and even if you're not in the rotation at the end of the year, when they start bringing players up and guys getting healthy and Homer Bailey back and so on, at least you will have left a good impression on not only the coaches with the Reds, but the scouts that are watching you play and pitch at the big league level.
One away here in the 5th. Barnhart bounced into a double play with the bases loaded. He did play to run. Two 2-1 on Barnhart. 3 balls and a strike with Finnegan on deck. A 3-2 game in the rubber game of this weekend series, and that's in the air and playable in short left field. A long run, but Presley is there. 2 out. Finnegan bounced out to the shortstop, ending the Reds' 2-run second inning. Boy, that ball smoked by Finnegan. But right at the second baseman to retire the side. It's still a 1-run ball game.
is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Coming up Sunday, June 5th, another family day. Lots going on for the youngsters, and thanks to Queen City Sausage, all kids 14 and younger will receive a Zach Cozart Fathead. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com.
Well, we expected a low-scoring game, even though, as Chris pointed out, when these two pitchers got together at Great American Ballpark in that 4-game set earlier this year, was a high-scoring affair. But both pitching like you're used to watching each pitch. Finnegan's given up 3 runs, only 3 hits. Nelson has given up 2 runs and 6 hits, but both runs in 5 of those 6 hits came in the first 2 innings. 8, 9, and 1 in the batting order. And remember, this is the way that 2-run rally began in the 3rd. Presley lined out, the pitcher flied out, but then Finnegan issued a 2-out walk to VR, who scored on a double by Perez, who scored on a single by LUCROY. Strike for Presley, and he's into second with a leadoff double.
Well, that's a frustrating kind of base hit to give up for a pitcher. You think you do make a pretty good pitch. He barely gets the bat around in time, and he gets it right on the chalk line. Especially a guy that's buried down there in the number 8 spot in the order, a left-hander. You're thinking, well, you look at the lineup ahead of time and you say, all right, well this guy's got to be 3 outs in my game. And this guy has to be 3 outs. And I just want to make sure I control this player before this guy gets up, who may get a hit or 2 off me. And of course, when you get down to the order, you're looking at outs. When you're looking in the middle of the order, you're being realistic. You're looking at guys that can do some damage.
Nelson has 4 sacrifices.
I got to tell you, I don't like his style up there. I mean, when he squares around, he doesn't really square around. He more pivots around, which is good. But you look where the level of the bat is when he's holding that bat about waist high. The idea is that you ought to hold that bat right up here and then bring it down when you're going to have a pitch, and at the very top of the strike zone. And he's also too far away from the plate. Makes him lunge at that pitch. He's going to try it again.
And he gets it down.
I give credit to Finnegan because he tried to get a strikeout or a foul ball strikeout there by flipping up a breaking ball. Nelson was able to negotiate it onto a sacrifice bunt. Well, you know what he does right, though? He bends his knees very nicely. I mean, he's not upright. I just think you ought to start that bat a little bit higher in the zone. Other than that, not too bad. Better than what we've seen out of some of these pitchers.
Brewers will now try and add to this 1-run lead. They have VR with a runner third, infield in. And it's fouled out of play, strike 1. We are in the bottom of the 5th inning. Milwaukee won the opener 9-5. Reds a 5-run deficit they overcame yesterday in a 7-6 decision. And now a 1-run game in this rubber game of the series. 0-1 to VR. And that'll make it a 4-2 game. This guy's a good-looking player.
Well, with the first two guys in this Brewer order, I mean, they really got him for just about nothing.
Nothing
they got
is right.
Hernan Perez for nothing off the waiver wire from Detroit. They traded a minor league pitcher to get VR, and I just think that sometimes you just hit pay dirt where you don't expect it. This young man's really playing good baseball.
Sure is. You know, we brought up yesterday that when he first came to the major leagues, you know, you're talking about a player barely beyond his 21st birthday. So those first couple of years when he's hitting in the very low 200s and not playing regularly. But then you wonder, are you starting to trend to what you really are when last year, all of a sudden that mark jumps up to 284 at the big league level.
At age 24.
Right.
And, you know, baseball people will tell you that you reach your peak when you're about 28 years old. You know, you reach that plateau where they expect you to play from 27, 28, all the way up to about 30, 32 years old, if you can stay healthy. And that's one of the things why, as you watch Eugenio Suarez play, you have to continue to remind yourself that he is 23 years old. And you say, well, you know, he's not doing what Todd Frazier did. Well, Todd Frazier didn't even come to the big leagues until he was 25. And even then, that 25 year, he did not play very much. It was 26 when he started. So you're still 3 years away with Suarez there.
Yeah, people forget when Frazier came up, he was still stuck behind Scott Rowland.
Yeah.
Rowland got hurt, which opened the door for Frazier to play, and still in one of the more controversial decisions ever made by the former Reds manager, now Nationals manager, Dusty Baker, was once the Reds got deep into September, more specifically to October in the playoffs, Dusty went back to Rowland rather than Frazier. We will see Dusty Baker for the first time in his new gig when the Reds come back off of this road trip, because the first team they will play next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Washington Nationals. That'd be a good homestand. 3 against Washington, 3 against the Cardinals, 3 against Oakland.
Now, right now, the Nationals are tied with the New York Mets atop the National League East.
I tell you, it's interesting, though. You know, they're obviously having an excellent year, but when they played some of the better teams, they've had more than their hands full. They've lost the first 2 games this weekend to the Cardinals, and I don't know if any of us are quite sure how good they are. 2 games over 500. Cubs really took it to them a week ago. And of course, that'll be a really fun season series to follow inside their own division against a talented New York Mets team.
Well, the Nationals have done great in interleague play. They're 7-2 when playing teams from the American League. Kansas City and Minnesota. They're 3-0 against the Twins and 2-1 against the Royals. 2-1 against the Detroit Tigers.
Good pitch right there.
Well, that's the pitch you want to throw when you're ahead in the count, obviously. It's a little bit off the plate, got him chasing, but that's the vicinity where you want many more of Brandon Finnegan's fastballs to be. Sometimes when you cut that ball loose and it's just high and away, it never looks like a strike, and it is essentially a waste pitch. But when you throw it down for a moment when it comes out of the pitcher's hand, just for an instant, it looks like it could be a strike, and you're going to get more swings on it.
When I know the count on Jonathan Lucroy with VR over at first and 2 outs Here in the Brewers' fifth, Milwaukee a single run in the first, 2 in the third, 1 in the fifth, and a 4-2 lead.
That's an example about what I'm talking about. With that pitch that comes out of your hand so quickly, it's just high and away, and it never even tempts the hitter. You know, you'd rather miss inside or down over the plate or up high over the plate. But if it's way outside and high, I mean, that really is a waste pitch.
Runner goes, ball 3, and that'll be a stolen base. A major league leading 18th for VR.
Well, he went with a 2-0 slider right here. A little anxious at the other end was Tucker Barnhart. Got his feet moving really before the ball got there, and the ball got underneath his glove.
That is an extremely colorful sort of armband he's wearing there. The floral.
That looks like something that was left over from the Mother's Day. Didn't they wear those on Mother's Day that look quite a bit like that?
Might have been. There's ball 4 on LUCROY. Jim Day, let's check in downstairs with you.
Well, with VR out there at second base and Brandon Phillips close to him, it reminds us of September 17th, 2013, when VR was with the Astros in the infamous between the legs tag, or some have called it the butt tag. And here it is. It was an unbelievable play. It made all the highlight shows. And I talked to Brandon Phillips about this. I said, have you talked to VR about this since? He says, nope, it's never been brought up. But every time he comes to the plate, he can't help but think about that moment right there.
They both might be thinking about that right now.
I'd forgotten all about it.
I did too.
I think there was a T-shirt made with that depiction on it. You could have picked it up around Cincinnati.
All right, this is a big batter in this game. You're down by 2. We're in the 5th. There are 2 out, and the powerful Chris Carter, the batter. Ball 1 away.
Looks like Diane Diaz, right-hander, up and warming up in the Reds bullpen.
High up in the air. And a long run. Will Bruce get there? It'll be Brandon. To retire the side. Brewers come up with a run, and they lead by 2 at the end of 5.
Mobile, let's take you down on the farm. AAA Louisville. Jermaine Curtis continues a solid season. .331 average, leads the team in home runs and runs driven in. AA Pensacola, Phillip Ervin, former first-round pick, had a night last night. 3 for 4, couple of runs, couple stolen bases. And at High A, Daytona, Taylor Sparks, 3 for 5 last night. 2 home runs and 4 runs driven in. It's his first career multi-home run game. Getting you caught up on some of the position players down on the farm.
Very, very nice. Always like know what's going on down on the farm. Trying to find that note, Jim Day, and maybe you can help me with this. I just can't find it, and I had it earlier. I guess Cody Reed is set to lock up with another very highly touted prospect today for Louisville. If I'm not mistaken, it is a game that is going to be televised on MLB.TV.
I think it's already underway. It started, I believe, at 1:35 Eastern time.
So they're pretty deep into that game. In fact, we just learned that Reed gave up 4 runs in his 6 innings of work.
I think
but they are winning. The Bats are 7-5. Do you have a further update on that game?
Well, now I'm just checking.
3-1 delivery on Hamilton, and that's a good way to get it started. Nelson here over the last 3 innings has only allowed 1 base running. But the Reds will take that walk to Hamilton to start this 6th, trailing by a pair. The tying run will come to the plate.
Yeah, it's amazing. You always, emphasize pitching matchups in certain games, and this was a ballyhooed one. Well, 7 runs scored in the first inning between the 2 teams.
Wow. Here's Votto, hitless in 2 at-bats. Hamilton, you may remember, dribbled one through the infield that died in the outfield. They went for a double leading off the game, and after really and naturally assuming a lot of attention from the pitcher Nelson, even though it went as a caught stealing, Nelson basically picked him off, meaning he threw to the bag that Hamilton occupied. Billy knew he couldn't get back. He took off for third and was easily cut down. Tapper by the mound. Only play us to first, and they get Votto.
And they're calling Billy Hamilton out of second base, too. Now, he's saying he wasn't tagged, but I believe the second base umpire is ringing up Billy Hamilton. That's Marvin Hudson out there. At least he made the call. Looked like to me he made a call that he was out.
Well, I think everybody on the field is wondering the same thing. And now Brian Price will come out and talk to Marvin Hudson to find out exactly if that is a call.
And in the process, Brian says, well, why don't we just get it reviewed, and that way I don't have to argue, since I really don't have any voice left after arguing so long yesterday.
Yeah.
This shouldn't take long.
You're saying he's safe?
Yeah. Now, did Billy Hamilton go out the baseline? You got to ask yourself. The runner has 3 feet on either side of the baseline that he establishes at the point when he's trying to avoid a tag. So you can run what looks like out of the baseline to avoid a fielder fielding a ground ball like he had to right there. But you're not deemed out of the baseline until you're actually having a play made on you by an attempted tag. What we do know here is that Joey Votto is out at first base, so the Brewers get one out, and the umpires in New York, which now there are 2 crews now that are stationed in New York each week, and we're going to find out whether he's out or safe.
Well, we are being told that the ruling on the field is that he tagged Billy Hamilton.
Yeah.
So it's a tag out.
Oh, okay. So we're looking to have it overturned.
Right. Because he clearly never touched Billy Hamilton. And when Hamilton jumped in the air, he basically was blocking the view of the second base umpire, who was in the right position there, Marvin Hudson. That's what we're being told now from downstairs.
All right.
Is the ruling on the field was a tag, and now they're saying no, the runner is safe because there never was a tag. So Hamilton will go into scoring position. There's 1 out in the inning, and Brandon coming up.
I wonder what the series record is for the number of reviews.
Oh.
You know, like a 4-game series or a 3-game series. Do they keep that kind of stat?
I don't know, but we would be knocking on that door in this series.
We've been knocking on a lot of doors here.
You're right about that. Here in a moment, we're going to check in with Jim Day about that injury to Brandon Phillips earlier in the game, as he bats with a runner at second, his team down 2 here in the 6th inning against Nelson. How about it, Jim Day?
It's a left ankle injury for Phillips going into that wall. He went underneath and got it taped up real tightly to stabilize it and get him through this game. But the big question will be, how much does it swell up tonight? How does it feel tomorrow? Working on adrenaline right now.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. One and one on Brandon Phillips.
When you look at the review information, just as a matter of point, the Reds are right in the middle of the pack with the number of reviews that they have asked for. 16. I think the Nationals have 20, if I'm not mistaken. That's about the most of any team out there. Marlins have 20, Indians, Nationals have 21. And if you're grading the umpires, it goes like this. Of all the reviews that have been asked for this year in the major leagues, 45% have been overturned.
Interesting. Popped up just beyond the infield dirt. And Hill out to get it for out number 2. So here comes Jay Bruce. 35 career home runs for Bruce against Milwaukee. 13 of the 35 have come here in Miller Park. Well, he'd love to get number 14 in this city right here and right now and tie this game up in the 6th inning. Fastball in there, strike.
That's the same spot that he unloaded the home run on.
Hamilton will take third. That'll be his 9th stolen base of the season. Well, as the old adage goes, by hook or by crook, they're trying to get Hamilton at the minimum in from third and draw within a run. Here's a 1-1 to Jay Bruce. Well, he had a good cut right there on the fastball, but fouled it back. Jay, the home run to right field in the second inning is 9th of the year. And then Nelson struck him out swinging. His second trip in the fourth. And that's why it's nice to have Hamilton at third, but that is quite a play by LUCROY.
Well, that's about as textbook as you can get out of Jonathan LUCROY.
Two and two the count on Jay Bruce. Fastball high and away. Bruce will take the walk. And now the dangerous Adam Duvall. Duvall had 2 hits, drove in 4 yesterday, had 2 hits, drove in 3 here on Friday night. And now a chance after being hit by a pitch in the second. He'd later score. He singled his last time up. If Duvall can run into one right here and right now, the Reds would have a lead.
Well, you're right, but I think that Jimmy Nelson feels a lot more comfortable pitching against Adam Duvall than Jay Bruce. Bruce, of all the hitters in the Reds lineup, has had the best run of luck against him. Best success overall, including today.
Oh, boy. In the air behind the plate. LUCROY to end the inning. Looked like he had a pretty good pitch to hit. We'll have to take a look on replay, but the Reds strand 2, trail by 2.
700 WLW for the Reds fan cam this Friday night at the Holy Grail. It's your chance to answer Reds trivia, win great prizes, and be a part of Reds Live. The party starts at 6 this Friday at the Holy Grail. And speaking of Mo Egger, he is in Milwaukee this weekend. Here today, taking in Reds baseball. He is a baseball fanatic. Yes, been here all weekend.
Mo's a good guy. Indeed. Really good guy. And does an excellent job. Not only locally, he's on afternoons over on 1530.
I wonder why he doesn't come up here and visit us in the TV booth.
I'm surprised.
I'm actually a little hurt.
But he also has had a chance to do a lot of national talk show radio work here of late, and really, really does a good job. Bottom of a 6th inning. Milwaukee 4, the Reds 2. Reds about hit him 6-5. Brewers scored a run in the 1st inning. The Reds came up with a pair in the 2nd. A pair of 2-out runs for the Brewers in the 3rd. They added another in the 5th. And here's Aaron Hill, his first hit in 2 at-bats. Go back to that DUVALL pitch a moment ago.
Well, looking to try to drive a run in after Jay Bruce walked, and it was a hanging breaking ball, and boy, oh boy, straight up the elevator shaft it goes. DUVALL waited on it and had a good swing, and you know, you miss a ball by a 1/4 of an inch, and that's the difference between being a hero and a GOAT. He's been the hero, though, a lot in this series. He's homered in 3 straight games. Of course, every time you turn around, Aaron Hill is on base.
Flores 0 for 2 is struck out and fly to center. That's a 6th hit for the Brewers in this game against Finnegan. Showing bunt Flores. Didn't look to be all that serious about it. Strike 1. One to Flores after a long look over at Hill. And a bouncer that could be 2. Votto, the return from DeJesus Jr. And a nice play by Joey Votto to pick that throw out of the dirt. Really nicely done by Votto.
Well, it's not an easy play for a right-handed throwing first baseman. You've got to shift your body completely around. He throws sidearm in there to get the peg in and then picks it up the other side. That's a tough pick, too. I'm going to say the last time that Brandon Finnegan pitched, it was in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. The Reds turned either 3 or 4 double plays behind him. And Craig Hansel can't decide yes or no, yes or no, no.
All right, so after the decision not to have him take a look, 2 down, nobody on. And here's Keon Broxton. Didn't miss by much, and Finnegan wondering where it missed. Maybe in, ball 1. The Reds have not won consecutive games since taking 3 in a row. The series finale against the Giants on the 4th of this month. And then the first 2 games of a 4-game series against these Brewers. The last time the Reds won a series, you've got to go all the way back to the 3rd week of April, when they beat Colorado 2 out of 3 at Great American Ballpark. And there's another 2-out walk with the bases empty. This time to the number 7 hitter in the lineup. 4th walk by Finnegan. One and one on Alex Presley, and he went around. It's a good pitch.
Well, they want to pitch him in because last time up, if you remember, he had a high fastball on the outer part of the plate, and it just went right down the third base line. So now they're going to crowd him with that fastball and say, all right, you're going to hit me, I'm going to make you pull it.
Well, not only the double down that left field line his last time up, he had a rocket to left field right at Holt his first time up, on the heels of what we mentioned earlier. He had a couple of lasers to the left side of the infield yesterday. Charging and throwing in time is De Jesus, and that will end the inning. All right, here we go in the 7th. Holt, De Jesus, Barnhart coming up. Reds down a pair. Reds were down 1-0. Jay Bruce led off the second inning with a home run to tie the game. The Reds would take the lead in that inning when they loaded the bases and scored on a double play. But then in the 3rd, with 2 outs, a walk, then a RBI double by Perez, followed by a single from LUCROY, which gave Milwaukee the lead, and in the R made it a 2-run game with an RBI single plating Presley, who doubled to begin the 5th. So 4 runs, 6 hits, 4 left for Milwaukee. 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors, and 3 left for the Reds. Here's Tyler Holt. He had a bunt singled and bounced into a double play. Two 2-0 on Holt. De Jesus to follow. Then the number 8 hitter Barnhart. Obviously, should we get any further than that, more than likely you're batting for the pitcher. In there, strike. Obviously, you're not going to see it now with 2 strikes, but when Holt had that bunt single his first time up, he pushed it to the right side. Prior to that 2-1 pitch, that looked pretty enticing again. But now on 2-2, Holt trying to put it in play and fouled out of play.
It's kind of interesting, really, because, you know, if you look at what Tyler Holt has, how hard he has hit the ball today, both times very softly. That push bunt in the first inning, and then that little ground ball. But it was the worst positioning of that bunt, or that little ground ball, that you could, because it went right over the bag, and it enabled the Brewers to have a 6 unassisted, then 3 double play.
2-2 on Holt. Strike 3.
Nasty breaking ball there.
Number 4 for Jimmy Nelson.
When you get the hitter dodging out of the way, and it's called for strike 3, you got a good one.
Ivan De Jesus Jr. is singled to right and struck out. Good breaking ball there to get ahead 0-1.
It's amazing how you mentioned it earlier, Tom, I guess around the 3rd inning when Jimmy Nelson started getting his breaking ball in, but it's even better now up around pitch number 95 than it was earlier in the game. You know, a big strong guy like Nelson just has a tendency, I mean, he's still a young kid, but at 25 years old, but he still has a tendency to overthrow early in the game, because that's what you do. You warm up, you try to throw as hard as you can, you come out here and you're overthrowing everything. But now that he's close to 100 pitches, he's really nice, in a nice groove. Which makes you wonder why 100 pitches is the spot in which managers seem to be very careful about going over and then taking their pitchers out.
Well, his spot is due to lead off the bottom of his 7th inning. And he has back-to-back punch-outs here in the top of the inning. Barnhart coming up.
And got them both on that breaking ball, that slider that's really biting for him right now.
Straight away center field. Broxton will get to it. Hit a long way by Barnhart, but a long, loud out. They stand and stretch. We'll keep it right here for the singing of God Bless America on this Memorial Day Sunday afternoon at Miller Park.
And beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
The bang with Fireworks Friday on June 3rd, thanks to Coca-Cola. You'll see those fireworks as well as the Reds take on the Nationals for as low as $12. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com.
Four-two ball game. Brandon Finnegan with his spot in the on-deck circle when the top of the inning came to an end will take the ball. And, you know, you mentioned before during the top of that inning, Nelson right around the 100 pitch mark. That's where he is now, but obviously Craig Counsell sees the same thing that you see.
I mean, he's really pitching effortlessly right now, and I don't know why anybody would really fret about the 100 pitch mark, especially when the guy's rolling right along. And you're really rolling along is Brandon Finnegan. He's had a few walks to his credit, but I mean, he's only given up 6 hits. He hasn't had a lot of stressful innings. He went 8 innings in a complete game his last time against the Dodgers and gets the first out in this inning.
4th strikeout of the afternoon for Brandon. Now back to the top of the order. And VR is giving Finnegan fits here today. Of course, he's doing that to a lot of guys so far this year. Singleton scored in the first. And if you weren't with us, it really was as Finnegan's day is over. After taking care of the arm, Brian Price will come get him. And this will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Diaz will trot on when we return. has to say right now to Brandon Finnegan after 6 1/3 innings?
Well, I hope it's congratulations. You did a fine job today. I mean, there's some rough edges that could have been fixed up a little bit. After all, he did give up 4 runs. But, I mean, there's a lot to build on here for Brandon Finnegan. There really is.
You know, when the year began, as Diaz takes over on the mound to face VR, I'm not going to say the common thinking, but certainly the majority of opinions that we would hear, Chris, in and around baseball, and even those who follow the Reds quite closely, would be that, yeah, okay, we're going to continue along with Finnegan and doing what he would like to do, and that's be a starter. But ultimately, his best role for this team is going to be in the bullpen. You heard that a lot. I think it's safe to say that so far through 2 months of the season, he is proving that he's a bona fide major league starter.
Well, I know that's where he wants to be. He said so in the interview that we ran in our pregame show today. And he's got no question about it. I mean, he wants to be a starter, period. Not even thinking about being shifted into the bullpen. So you just start doing the math, though, about the number of rotation spots you have. Once Homer Bailey comes back given, once Scapani comes back given, once Iglesias comes back, and Finnegan, that's 4. So for all these other pitchers, you know, there's one spot to battle for. Robert Stevenson, Cody Reed, John Moscott, Dan Straley.
Well,
I mean,
you just hit the name of the guy who's been the best Red starter since he went into rotation.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. And I think he's not only the best, but probably the biggest surprise.
Yes.
Coming out of nowhere, but I mean, his stuff could translate to a shift in the bullpen. Maybe not a late inning pitcher, but a guy that could give you multiple innings in a game in which you need multiple innings covered.
Well, the very first batter that Diaz faces, he walks. And now it'll be Perez. What do you like about Cian Diaz?
Well, I mean, I would say before he walked the batter that he comes right at you. He's got a live fastball, good little breaking ball. But he's 27 years old and, you know, just coming through the major leagues for the first time right now. The Astros originally signed him out of Cartagena, Colombia. When he was 16 years old, he started playing when he was 17 down in the Venezuelan Summer League.
Running by Perez. 2 outs in the inning. He'll be credited with a sacrifice. You have to give the batter the benefit of the doubt, although it looked like he was trying to bunt for a hit. You know, I wonder, Chris, if you're going to pitch to LUCROY here. I know you got a righty on righty, but the guy on deck, while yes, capable of doing damage, has not been nearly the threat. 8 runs batted in this series by LUCROY.
Well, what you could do is always pitch around him a little bit and see if he chases, but you're not sure if Diaz, you know, understands what that's all about at this level. We're not going to give him a fastball, at least on the first pitch. That's a leadoff slider. I still think, you know, in this situation, LUCROY steps up there and he takes the first pitch because he's never faced Diaz before. So what's wrong with a nice, crisp, low outside fastball on the corner just to lead him off? And then you can go to your breaking ball. But Diaz and Barhart have gone backwards, and they still got him 0-2. That fastball's got some life.
They pitch to LUCROY and he makes them pay. His 9th run batted in this series, and it is a run-scoring triple. I just don't know how you pitch to this guy.
Well, I don't know how you throw that pitch on a 0-2 count right down Broadway.
Yep.
I mean, Diaz has the stuff to finish him off right here, but you don't spin up a cement mixer waist high on the outer part of the plate. Boy, he's going to hate to see the Reds leave town.
He's not alone.
I mean, really,
it wasn't second guessing here either, because I brought it up before the at-bat ever happened. Carter was 0 for 5 in the series opener. He was 0 for 3 yesterday. He is 0 for 3 today. You have a base open and a guy who's knocked in 8 runs in 2 games and 3 at-bats.
Well, you're right about that, Tom. But you know, once you get him, once you decide to pitch to him, and you get him no balls and 2 strikes.
Great point.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 3 pitches with which to expand the zone on a little bit.
Great point.
I mean, what's the matter with a pitch like that on an 0-2 count, like he just did to Chris Carter?
But that's what something that you brought up, and you and I have talked about this so many times. I think the number of guys you can trust to do what you said, sort of a pitch around, see if he chases anything, a guy that has enough confidence in maybe being able to throw that pitch like we just saw a moment ago. There's a jam shot pop-up. It's going to end the inning. I think those guys are few and far between anymore.
Coming up June the 4th, the first 25,000 fans will get a Reds tote bag. Reds take on the Nationals. You can see it for as low as $12. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit Reds.com.
Jimbo, how you coming along down there?
Been a little warm today.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't feel like that up here.
Well, I know that air conditioner blows really hard here at Miller Park.
Maybe that's why.
Perhaps it is. No sunshine up there.
Well, that part stinks.
But I have no complaints.
Okay. Tell you what, though, you need to park over in that Reds radio booth. That place is freezing cold. Glad we're not in there.
You're talking about the personalities that are in there?
Both. Zach Cozart takes down and in 2-0. Well, that's a cranky duo over there. Hey, look, I'm not going to be around for a while. I'm going to get in a few shots.
Why not?
Why not is right. 2-0 to Cozart. And drilled in the back to begin the inning. Second red hit by a pitch in the game today.
That'll probably get some activity. In fact, we've already seen it going on in the Brewer bullpen. First, I thought that was a breaking ball, but it was registered at 91, so it had to be a fastball. And Cozart looks at it. Jimmy Nelson's like, what's that all about?
3 Reds were hit by pitches in the game yesterday. So the Reds down 3. And we'll roll back up to the top of the order. Tyler Thornburg ready in that bullpen if they need it. Hamilton has been aboard twice. A double on really just a bouncing roller back up through the middle that he turned into a double. He tapped out to the mound in the 3rd, drew a walk, stole a base, was stranded at 3rd in the 6th. Slow roller to the right side. And the only play is to Aaron Hill's left. So Cozart into scoring position, 1 out here in the Cincinnati 8th inning.
Of course, this time in the ball game, the Brewers are simply looking for outs. Comfortable lead.
And that's going to be it for Nelson. Pitched a good game again. This is 3rd excellent start in a row. This guy's part of the future, whatever that future may hold in Milwaukee. We're back in a moment. Thank you very much, fellas. New pitcher is right-hander Tyler Thornburg. We saw him in the series opener working a perfect inning here on Friday night.
Thornburg has got 2 lethal pitches, and he's been a very good 8th inning pitcher for the Brewers so far this year. They've been very tight at the end of the ball game. Thornburg, Jeremy Jeffress, a nice 1-2 combination. Michael Blazek has also been good. Thornburg averages a little bit over 95 miles an hour on that fastball, and then 79 miles an hour on overhand curveball.
When he has thrown back-to-back heaters, darts for strikes to Votto.
Boy, every time you look up, Joey seems like he's in an 0-2 count.
Batting average at 208. 0 for 3 here today. And again, he'll choke way up on that bat. And a slow roller to the right side. An 0 for 4 afternoon for Votto, with Cozart advancing to third. You know, you ask the question, at what point in the year do you start getting worried's not the word. There are a lot of things in this world to be worried about. But when do you start to get a little bit concerned about where Votto is?
I think there's already concern. The only thing that keeps you from being worried, as you say, is his resume so far, which is incredible. I mean, MVP 1 year, last year, number 3 in the MVP, had the best second half of the season of anybody in all of Major League Baseball. But is really just a shell of what he was last year, what we're seeing so far in the first half this year. So, if past performance is any indication of future results, you figure he's going to figure it out.
Bouncing ball. Carter handles it. That's a pretty nice play right there by Carter. And they have been very happy with his defense at first. So Thornburg retires Votto and Phillips. 5-2 Milwaukee.
By tuning into the Golf Zone, PGA Pro Jimmy Hanlon gives terrific tips that can lower your handicap, and he recaps each weekend's tournament. Get inside the Golf Zone with Jimmy Hanlon, presented by American Eagle Mortgage and Varmint Guard. It's tonight at 8 right here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Brewers here in the bottom of the 8th inning with a 3-run lead. And Ross Ohlendorf will take over behind Diaz, who worked 2/3 of an inning. Allowed a hit, a walk, and a run. Aaron Hill, Flores, and then Broxton.
Been a while since Ollendorf has been on the mound. We have not seen him since the Seattle series.
Ground ball to the shortstop. One away. Well, he's not allowed to run in any of his last 3 outings.
He's really had 2 outings in which he's given up a lot, which will taint that earned run average. He's given up 3 in 1 inning 2 times. So when you don't have a lot of innings under your belt, your earned run average is going to skyrocket because of that. But overall, he's been fairly, one of the more consistent performers out of the Reds bullpen.
Oh, and 1 to Flores.
Ooh, 95.
Yeah, he's shown a really good fastball.
Last year, Ross was with the Texas Rangers. He split time between Round Rock, their AAA franchise, and Texas. Pitched 21 games in the big leagues, 27 down in the minor leagues.
2-2 to Flores. 97 with that fastball.
Boy, give him a week off, and he's raring to go.
He's a big, strong man. There's no 2 ways about that. Came back with a gas at 96. And Flores drops it foul off to the opposite field side. I don't know about you, now we did not see Ollendorf a lot last year when, as you just mentioned, minor leagues, a little bit of the big leagues, but I've never remembered him throwing this.
I never have either. I mean, he spent the last few years with the Washington Nationals organization. Up a little bit, down a little bit. He's been with San Diego, Boston, Pittsburgh before that, Yankees originally. But in all those times we've seen him, and it's been on and off. Mostly with the Pittsburgh Pirates, really, at least for us in Cincinnati, having seen him. And this is by far the best velocity we've seen him have.
Well, fastball after fastball after fastball, and Flores finally able to square one up.
There's proof that 96 is hitting speed. Makes you wonder, really. I mean, it makes me wonder anyway about where we're going to be a few years from now, when you have now a whole generation of kids that are doing nothing but exercises to get themselves to throw harder. Not make themselves better pitchers, but just be able to reach that 90-mile-an-hour mark or that 95 mark or the 100-mile-an-hour mark. I mean, 5 years from now, I predict that we're going to have 3 pitchers on every staff that are hitting 100. And the kids coming up, out of high school and college, your first-round draft picks are going to all be in the upper 90s. Unless you have one team that says, you know what, we're going to go for pitchability. A la an Aaron Nola type of a pitcher that signed with the Philadelphia Phillies.
And he's a good one.
He is a good one.
Well, he was a top 5 pick in a draft, right?
And it takes a leap of faith for a team to do that, to kind of shun away all the modern projections using radar guns and spin rates and all the things they have on pitchers now, velocity, as opposed to saying, all right, this guy's got great secondary pitching stuff. He's got good action on his fastball, and we think he's very close to big leagues. Whereas you can get a guy who's throwing 100 miles an hour, and if he never gets the right zip code, he's never going to be up here.
Then you get into the whole thing. And, we were sitting with C. Trent Rosecrans from the Cincinnati Enquirer at dinner the other night. And, tell you, he's a piece of work. He jumped in the car and drove down there to watch the SEC tournament. And, as written, and more are to come. Some great articles about some of the players in the Southeastern Conference, and a number of them on the draft board under safety on second base, as it's 1-2 on Neuenheim. And there's the story of the pitcher at Florida, left-hander who's like you're talking about, upper 90s guy, and
AJ Puck,
right, and maybe he would be the the number 1 pick in this upcoming draft. And look, that are they going to challenge this call? They are. Look, I'm not going to sit in here and get into the whole thing about, do wins and losses matter and all that kind, or not matter. Do, how much does a starting pitcher have to do with winning, getting the win, or getting a loss in a game? And we know all that whole argument and everything, but, is there anything to be said for what the Tennessee coach said? Now, granted, it's another school, it's a big rival, but the Tennessee coach, in a nutshell, said to C. Trent Rosecrans on the record, how does a team win 47 games, lose 12, and the guy we're talking about being the number 1 pick in the country win 2 games and goes beyond the 7th inning 1 time? And I don't know, this guy might be the next Randy Johnson. I'm not saying he's not.
Well, he resembles Randy Johnson as much as he's about 6'7" and
right.
Big, tall left-hander.
But you know what I'm getting at.
And throwing
here.
about 100 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah, but, I think, that's probably one consideration. But most major league teams that are scouting him, they could care less about the wins and losses that they have either in high school, junior college, or college. What they're looking at is the raw potential, projectability. They're looking at the delivery, whether it's repeatable, and whether it's a type of a delivery where it's going to injure his arm. If there's a way to predict that is. And I think there might be coming on to something like that. So I think the wins and losses, although it may bother the Tennessee coach a lot, don't bother the scouts one bit. I think the biggest question that a major league organization has when they're scouting a player like that is they ask themselves this question: can this player play 6 years in the major leagues for me, and can he contribute? Because if you can draft a player that will give you 6 years in the major leagues before he reaches free agency, that will save the ball club $80 million. Had a great conversation not too long ago with one of the super agents in Los Angeles that we sat down and talked for a long time before the ball game, and when he started talking in those terms, he really got my attention because it was extremely interesting.
Two away in the inning after the strikeout of Neuenheim. We We invite you to get ready 30 minutes before the start of every game with all you need to know about Reds baseball, and that's Reds Live here on Fox Sports Ohio, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. (5-2) Brewers lead, last of the 8th inning. Runner at second, 2 out. And it's a strike to Presley.
You know, I'm looking year by year at the velocity, average velocity of Ross Ollendorf, and it's up and down quite a bit, but never has it exceeded about 93.5 miles an hour as the average fastball. So he's now throwing harder now than he ever has. And here he is, 33 years old. We may want to ask him about his diet.
Well, he is a really big, strong, powerfully built man. I mean, he is the very definition, having grown up on a farm in Texas, of that old phrase, country strong. I mean, big hands, big legs, big trunk, big neck.
6 feet 4 inches tall and 240. Austin, aren't there more musicians though than farms in Austin?
More Longhorns. You ever been down there, Austin, Texas?
A little bit, only once or twice. Great city.
Of course, that is the home city to the University of Texas. Well, you talk about a football program that is just falling apart. Holy Moses. Charlie Strong's trying to get that thing together. One and one to Presley. Runner at second. Fastball up and away, 2-1. It's an important run out there at second base. It's a tall order already to try and rally from 3 down in the 9th. 4 makes it that much tougher. Steve Wright called at 95 on the outside edge. Reds rally from 5 down, their largest deficit to overcome to win a game this season. With that 5-run 7th yesterday. Barnhart, that one got him and got him good. He is in some pain. He's going to need timeout.
They bounced it right in the dirt, did Ollendorf.
I think whatever was exposed on that right hand or right arm, it bounced and found that spot. He is hurt. He is really hurt. Down the left field line, and Holt chasing. You'll get it in fair ground to retire the side. All right, here we go. Bruce, DUVALL, Holt. Reds down 3. They bat the 9th. all the way back to the second inning, the only inning the Reds scored in this inning. Jay Bruce clubbing the 35th home run of his career against the Milwaukee Brewers. 13 of them have been hit in this ballpark. Our Volkswagen drive of the game. Blaine Boyer. This guy could have been had for a song multiple times through the years.
You're not kidding about that. Originally drafted by the Braves, 3rd round, year 2000. They got him out of right there in the Atlanta area in Marietta. That's where he made his major league debut and really pitched his first 6 or 7 years in the major leagues there. 10 years overall. He has 3 career saves. 1 with Atlanta, 1 with the New York Mets, and 1 last year with the Minnesota Twins. He's looking for number 4 here with a 3-run lead and 1 inning to go.
All righty, Bruce to lead it off, and he looks at a fastball, steal right one at the knees on the outside edge. Duvall to follow, then Holt. 4 of the 5 scored against starter Brandon Finnegan over 6 1/3 innings. Diaz allowed a run in 2/3, and a scoreless inning of work for Mr. Ollendorf. Jimmy Nelson left after 1 out in the 8th inning, allowing 7 hits, 2 earned runs, hit 2, walked 2, and now 1 and 2 on Jay Bruce. Nelson fanned 5 in his 7 1/3 innings. Tyler Thornburg got the final 2 outs in the 8th. Now Boyer. He's got enough there to hang up for Mr. Broxton, 1 away. I beg your pardon. Nieuwenhuis, after batting a moment ago, stays in the game, so forgive me. Adam Duvall hit by a pitch, scored a run in the 2nd, single to center in the 4th, stranded 2 when he fouled out to LUCROY, ending the 6th. Should be the 2nd out of the inning. Again, it's Nieuwenhuis coming in. He'll give way to the right fielder Flores. Tyler Holt about it. You know, it's very interesting. I'm sure here in Milwaukee it's interesting. I don't know how interesting in Cincinnati, but sitting here watching the way this series has developed, and something you brought up yesterday about Jeffress coming into the game Friday night. He's our closer in a blowout game. He pitched yesterday, obviously, in a tight game. But it's interesting that all that leads up to giving a guy like Boyer a chance to nail down a save today.
And the only guy probably sore of that would be Jeffress.
Right.
And some managers would say, well, who cares? We are playing a team game here. And I think for Craig Counsell, it's nice to know that he really, I mean, you know, Boyer's a veteran. Thornburg's been around, he's a veteran. Jeffress is now a veteran pitcher. So even though this is a rebuilding year for the Brewers, they have been very competitive at the end of the ball game.
He's trying to be the 3rd pitcher in the last 3 wins to get a save.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very democratic of Craig Counsell.
Nothing socialist about it. Sinking liner will fall in a base hit. but you just think about the luxury that is for a manager. We brought up before this series began how Counsell had decided that final game in Atlanta after 11 straight days of playing games decided by 2 runs or less, a Milwaukee Brewers franchise record. That it didn't matter how close the game was going to be on Thursday. He was going to use 2 guys that are used to pitching the 5th or 6th in mop-up duty to close out a game. And that's what he did. And now you're giving the ball to Boyer. 3-run game as Holton will take second base for what would be his first save of the year. Now this game belongs to Boyer no matter what. There is no one getting loose in that bullpen. With 2 outs and a runner at second and a 3-run lead. 2-0 on De Jesus. Two and 1. Count even. And a base hit into center field will bring in a run. De Jesus, a 2-out, 2-strike run scoring single. It's been a 2-hit day for Ivan. The Reds are going to bring the tying run to the plate, trailing 5-3 with 2 outs in the 9th. Been a good day for Ivan De Jesus Jr.
It has. It really has.
Now Tucker Barnhart. He has 1 home run this year. 0 for 3 in the game. Still nobody stirring at all in the Brewers bullpen. They have been used and used and used here over the last couple of weeks. One and 1 on Tucker. Taking second base, De Jesus. 2 balls and a strike. In the air, shallow right center. It'll fall in, a base hit. Scoring is De Jesus, and now the Reds within a single run.
Well, the Reds have strung 3 hits together back to back to back, but part of the scoring can be credited to the fact that there have been no defense on the base paths. There have been defensive indifference for both the runner Tyler Holt, and then Ivan De Jesus puts themselves in scoring position just by running around. And now you've got a 1-run ball game. Boyer sees that ball falling in there, just kind of on the end of the bat there by Barnhart, and I guess this save that started out looked like it was going to be pretty easy, retiring the first 2 batters on easy fly balls. Now has become a little bit of a nail biter here.
Jordan Pacheco will be sent up to bat for Ross Ohlendorf. Pacheco 8 hits and 47 at bats, does not have a home run. He has 4 doubles, 4 hits in 19 at bats as a pinch hitter. Well, they're going to hold the runner on now. That is a tying run over there at first. Pacheco, the go-ahead run. Started 2. Did he go? Yes, says Jim Joyce. Pacheco had 2 home runs in a limited number of at-bats a season ago in Arizona. Got a good cut on that pitch, but fouled it back. Now he's down 0-2. Strikeout of Pacheco to end it. So the Brewers win 2 out of 3 over the weekend. Reds made it interesting in the 9th inning, coming up with 2, but leave the tying run at first base. Final count: Brewers 5, Reds 4. Back with more in a moment.